Henry Thomas has had a successful and enduring career in the entertainment industry. He will always be known as Elliot, the boy who befriends a visiting alien in E.T. the Extraterrestrial. But he's also built a massive and impressive body of work outside of that career-defining part. Some of his notable film and television appearances include Legends of the Fall, Gangs of New York, The Haunting of Hill House, and The Haunting of Bly Manor, among others. Here are 10 things you probably didn't know about Henry Thomas. He wasn't the original Elliot in E.T. The movie E.T. is beloved for its heartwarming story. When they were picking the actor for the main human character, they initially had someone in mind but wanted to see how the kids would interact. Marcel Leroff, the casting director for E.T., said, "We had kind of honed in on the kid that we wanted to play the role of Elliot. In this situation, since they were all kids, we wanted to see how they would interact together by playing a game. We invited them all to the writer Melissa Matheson's house to play Dungeons & Dragons. The first choice for Elliot didn't work out because he was bossy and didn't get along with the others during the game. They had to start over. Then, a friend of the director Steven Spielberg, named Jack Fisk, suggested Henry Thomas, whom he had worked with before in a film called Raggedy Man. Thomas came for an audition, and his performance was so moving that left the room in tears. That's when Spielberg decided, "Okay kid, you got the job." If it wasn't for that Dungeons & Dragons game, there might have been another Elliot. The media spotlight that followed E.T. was too much for him. Becoming famous at 11 for his role in E.T. was overwhelming for Henry Thomas. He won the part with an emotional audition but struggled with the intense attention from the media. He told the Mirror, "Of course, there have been times I regretted being the kid in E.T. My world went completely crazy. I was that stupid kind of famous where you can't go anywhere. I was a shy kid, and being approached by adults all the time just freaked me out. I was like a circus freak. But the only time I had to deal with it was when I left the house, so I stopped leaving the house. I became an 11-year-old hermit." After things quieted down, he returned to acting quietly. Thankfully, as he grew up, he cared less about what people thought and focused more on grounding himself in what he knew. He has found his niche in horror. Thomas has been in a number of projects, but he has found his niche in horror. He's appeared in Stephen King adaptations of Gerald's Game and Dr. Sleep, as well as Ouija, Origin of Evil, among many others. He's also collaborated with director Mike Flanagan on several occasions, culminating in Netflix's The Haunting of Hill House and follow-up Bly Manor. In an interview with Slash Film, Thomas said he's become a mainstay of the horror and thriller genre because of Flanagan. He said, "We just finished our 8th project together, so he's hired me consistently since 2014, and as a result, my face has just popped up in that genre so much over the course of the last few years that people associate me with it." He has a side gig as a fantasy writer. Thomas has a deep passion for fantasy. He has immersed himself in the works of authors like J.R.R. Tolkien and Robert Jordan, and even studied fencing and medieval martial arts. His love for fantasy was influenced by his Dungeons & Dragons days as a kid and teenager. He told Metro, "I've always been a fan of fantasy books growing up. I got a little bit disillusioned with the genre because I felt it became so formulaic. I thought, I can throw together a good fantasy story." And that's exactly what he did while working in Romania for 3 months. In 2019, he released his debut fantasy novel, The Window and the Mirror, about a world-threatening crisis and the heroes trying to save it. It might become a series, but he's quite busy with acting, so we'll have to wait and see. His real-life fears. Thomas had different fears as a child and as an adult. When he was young, he was terrified of snakes because he had been bitten by one, which is a common fear. As an adult, his biggest fear has shifted to feeling claustrophobic. He told 9honey Celebrity, "I don't like being inside. I have a fear that the world is moving into a more inside world." The one souvenir he kept from the set of E.T. After filming E.T., Thomas wanted a lightsaber as a souvenir but only got to keep the red sweatshirt he wore in the iconic flying bicycle scene. Clearly, the production crew didn't allow him to take anything more valuable. Now, as an adult, he looks back fondly on his time on set and enjoys sharing the movie with his kids, even though they haven't watched it in its entirety. He was originally cast in the miniseries Merlin. Thomas was initially chosen to play the young King Arthur in the 1998 miniseries Merlin. However, when he arrived at London's Heathrow Airport, he was denied entry into England because his work documents were not in order due to an administrative error. He was subsequently replaced by actor Paul Curran. It was an unfortunate misunderstanding, and Thomas didn't do anything illegal. He is also a musician. Outside of acting, Thomas has dabbled in the music industry. In the 1990s, he was the songwriter and guitarist for a Texas band called the Blue Heelers. Although the band was not signed to a record label, it self-produced an album, Twister. In 2003, he collaborated with Nikki Sutton to create music for a film called Honey Baby, directed by Mika Korismäki. In the film, Thomas played a fictional musician named Tom Brackett and performed 4 original songs. They were working on an album, but sadly, Sutton passed away unexpectedly in 2006, which halted their musical collaboration. In the 2010s, he was in a California-based band Farspeaker. He was arrested for DUI. Thomas got arrested for driving under the influence in Oregon in October 2019. The situation was quite serious because he was found asleep behind the wheel in the middle of a residential intersection. The arrest happened after a fellow motorist called 911 to report it, and it led to a year-long diversion program and a breathalyzer being installed in his car. He's been married 3 times. In his personal life, Thomas was married to Kelly Hill from 2000 to 2002, then to Marie Zielk between 2004 and 2007. With Zielk, he has a daughter named Hazel. Since 2009, he has been wed to Annalie Furry, and they have 2 children together, a daughter named Evelyn and a son named Thomas.